Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandavat Pranam, Jai Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandavat Pranam.
Dandavat Pranam, Jai Prabhupada. Just give me a minute, Sutapa Mataji. Okay, I'm bringing up my console here. Okay. So that I can see who else is there on the call here today. All right. So yes, I do see I have just you and I, Sutapa Mataji. So we'll just wait for maybe a few more minutes. Yeah.
Yes, Mataji.
Okay.
Definitely.
Yeah. Okay. Good. While I bring up the links, etc. So today's verse is going to be 1:7:27. So let's just go there and database 7-27, and we are going to go to Ashwatthama. So how is your day going today so far, Sutapa?
Mataji, today we went to the store, so it's like a fight.
Is it? Is it?
Ah. Yeah, yes. Otherwise, that's okay. Everything is good. So,
right.
how about you? You completed everything? Like the
Sorry, say that again.
You completed everything, your tasks and everything.
Oh, no, I'm running behind. That's okay, yeah. So I just posted a link over there. We will just wait for 2 more minutes and then I'll just get started on that, right? Garima came and joined at 3:30.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Sonal Mataji, good to have you here. And Preeti Radhika is also there on the call with us. So we should then just get started, okay? So we're going to get started here. I'm going to start the recording.
The recording has started.
And temporarily I'm going to
All
mute
participants
everybody.
are muted and they can unmute themselves.
While we go there. So welcome everybody to our Srimad Bhagavatam class today. So we'll start with the Mangalacharan prayers. Om Ajnanatimarandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Yuta Padkamalam Sri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitam Sja He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Deenabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kant Radha Kant Namastute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Gaur. Okay, so let me unmute all of you first here. And then we will get going with the verse for today. And I posted the link.
All participants are unmuted.
And while you're going to tell me about whether you can see it or not, I would like to welcome Anirudh Prabhu, who's at work right now, and then Dhir Madhavi Mataji, Garima Mataji, Priti Radhika, Medha Shivale, Archana Mataji, Smriti Mataji, Sonal Mataji, and Sonal Mataji, and I think I might have some more, and we have Sutaba Mataji as well. Okay, so thank you so much, and Hare Krishna, Danvatana. Jai Guru Maharaj.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Danvat Pranam.
Hare Krishna Archana, good to have you on the call. So, which verse are we on today? Does anybody know? And have I unmuted you? Yes, I have. Okay. So then we have also Divyangi Mataji who's watching us on the Facebook, and Mantra Siddhi. Hare Krishna to you as well. Okay, did you get the verse? Did you all get the verse today for today? I'm waiting to hear from you. Have I muted all of you? No, you can speak. What happened? Let's see what happened. Did I get dropped from here? No, could be. I got dropped from here. Okay. Okay, can you all hear me? Now you can hear me. Yeah, it looks like my call got dropped. Yes, I got dropped and kicked off from there. That's okay. I'm used to it. So you got the thing. So let's get going then. What's stopping us, right? We've done our Mangalachan prayers, and then we will go and do Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Cheva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Mudiraye. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, 1st Canto, 7th chapter, verse number 27. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Vetedam Drona Putrasya Brahmam Astram Pradarshitam Nevasau Veda Samharam Pranabadha Upastite. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Vetedam Drona Putrasya Brahmam Astram Pradarshitam Nevasau Veda Samharam Pranabadha Upastite. Synonyms: Sri Bhagwan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Uvacha means said. Vetha, just know from me. Idam, this. Dronaputrasya, of the son of Drona. Brahmam Astram, hymns of the Brahma, nuclear weapon. Pradarshitam, exhibited. Na, not. Eva, even. Asau, he. Veda, knew it. Samharam, retraction. Pranabadhe, extinction of life. Upastite, being imminent. Okay, so quite a few new verses, words came into this particular verse today. So if I want to tell you, just know from me, just know this from me, that this verse is from Bhagavatam. So just know from me. What will you say in Sanskrit? A little bit louder. Vetha, right? Vetha. Ved. Okay. So Ved, Ved is knowledge. Vedas is knowledge. So the root is coming from there. Vetha. Okay. All right. And if I want to say that something got exhibited, he exhibited his skills, or he exhibited his pradarshitam, right? So there's darshitam and then there's pradarshitam. So if you add a pra before a word, it gets intensified. So it's not just a simple showing, right? Like if I take my purse out and I, just hold it in my hand, you will be able to see it. But if I really try to do a modeling of it, a little bit of a display, how they do it, then it's an exhibition. So this is not just darshitam, it is pradarshitam. It's not, it's not just a show, it's a show off like that. So, okay. Then if you want to retract, what is the word for that? I want to retract. Samharam is that. Okay. And if I want to say that he said, what is that? Said. Uvacha. Okay, very good. And if something is imminent, like it's going to come soon, imminent. Upasthit hai, right? Aa gaya hai, yahan, upasthit ho gaya, very imminent. It's there, near, close to you. Okay, very good. Translation. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, "Know from me that this is the act of the son of Drona. He has thrown the hymns of nuclear energy, Brahmastra, and he does not know how to retract the glare. He has helplessly done this, being afraid of imminent death." So what was he afraid of? Imminent death, right? Imminent death, right? Because it's very close. And death was coming to him in the form of? Hmm? Hmm?
Arjun
Yeah. Okay, so tell me that who is the one who is the one who is speaking first? Hare Krishna. So who's good to have you on the call, Sonia. So who's speaking? Krishna is speaking. And about whom is he speaking? To whom is he speaking? Okay. And about whom is he speaking? Okay, so who is afraid of death? Ashwathama, right? And so death is coming to Ashwathama in the form of? Who is chasing him? Arjuna, right? So Arjuna was chasing him, and so what happens is that this guy has killed the Pandavas' 7 sons, right? And so their 7 sons are killed, and that too when they were asleep. And so Draupadi, their mom, is lamenting and she's crying, and of course Arjuna was the closest to her, and she loved Arjuna the most after the 5, and because he had won her hand in the swimmer. And so when she's lamenting, then he, being the Kshatriya that he is, few verses before, he had said that, okay, I'm going to kill him and bring his head or something to that extent. And you can stand on his head and then you can take your shower there. So that'll cool you down a little bit, right? So then he starts chasing him on his chariot. So then Ashwathama is also running, and behind him, Ashwathama is running away on his chariot, and Arjuna is following him on his chariot. So then on the way, what happens is that Ashwathama's horses get thirsty, right? So they're thirsty, now they can't run. So he knows that Arjuna is going to overtake him, and he knows that Arjuna is very, very powerful. So he knows that Arjuna is going to kill me. So that is his imminent death. So he was scared of that. And because he was scared of that, then what he does is he releases this Brahmastra, right? So here, so when he's releasing that Brahmastra, then Arjuna is asked Bhagwan last week, right? He said, I don't know from where is this light coming? Where is this glare coming? This effulgence, I don't know from where it is coming, right? So now in response to that question, so Supreme Personality of Godhead is saying, know from me that this is the act of son of Drona, which is Ashwathama. He has thrown the hymns of nuclear energy, Brahmastra, and he does not know how to retract the glare. He has helplessly done this, being afraid of imminent death. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. The Brahmastra is similar to the modern nuclear weapon manipulated by atomic energy. The atomic energy works wholly on total combustibility, and so the Brahmastra also acts. It creates an intolerable heat similar to atomic radiation, but the difference is that the atomic bomb is a gross type of nuclear weapon, whereas the Brahmastra is a subtle type of weapon produced by chanting hymns. Okay, so can you go back to the synonyms and tell me where it talks about the hymns of Brahmastra? Brahmastram. There you go.
Brahma.
Correct. Correct. Right. Okay. It is a different science, and in the days gone by, such science was cultivated in the land of Bharatvarsha. The subtle science of chanting hymns is also material, but it has yet to be known by the modern material scientists. Subtle material science is not spiritual, but it has a direct relationship with the spiritual method, which is still subtler. A chanter of hymns knows how to apply the weapon as well as how to retract it. That was perfect knowledge. But the son of Dronacharya, who made use of this subtle science, did not know how to retract it. He applied it, being afraid of his imminent death, and thus the practice was not only improper but was also irreligious. As the son of a Brahmana, he should not have made so many mistakes, and for such gross negligence of duty, he was to be punished by the Lord himself. So, like I said earlier, that this is Krishna's response to Arjuna's question from earlier, that where is this sound coming from? So, and the reason, why is he asking that? Where is this light coming from, right? Effulgence coming from, not sound, sorry. So he's asking, where is this light coming from? And the reason for that is that the Brahmas actually looks like a ordinary weapon. It looks like an ordinary arrow, right? And let's go back again to the synonym. And let's look one more time at Brahma Astram. So Brahmastram is Brahmam Astram. So what does it mean? What is the meaning given by Prabhupada?
Tips of the Brahma weapon.
Right.
Nuclear weapon.
So you see, it is actually, the power is not that the arrow is made of special steel or has got gold in it or silver in it or whatever you want, right? It's not that. The potency of that arrow comes from the hymns or from the mantras that are chanted there, right? So, and these mantras are so potent, and science, modern science has not reached that stage. So mantra is so potent that that very arrow becomes a nuclear weapon. So because of the mantras, and then because it's nuclear, there's nuclear reaction going on, so there'll be a lot of light that will come out of it, right? Now, the thing to keep in mind is that, you know, although it has become a nuclear weapon, it is not like our modern day nuclear weapons. Our modern day nuclear weapons are still on a gross plane because they're manipulating, you know, the atoms, and atoms are gross. When we talk about subtle things, then subtle elements are, you know, like air, sound, ether, and so on, right? Like that. So these nuclear weapons, the Brahmas is made up of a subtle thing. It's made up of hymns, and when these hymns are applied to the arrow, then the arrow becomes a deadly one. So if you use a hymn to bring it and to apply on the arrow, and then you have another hymn to more to retract it, like that. So modern science, in the modern days, when we have a nuclear reaction, for example, we had the atomic bombs, right, that were dropped. Where were the atomic bombs dropped? Atomic bombs. Hiroshima and Nagasaki, right? Those two places, and so we had. So here's the difference, that when you drop a bomb on Hiroshima or you drop a bomb on Nagasaki, then there is this particular radius around which radius in which people get affected, right? There were people close to 1,000 feet away or 2,000 feet away from where the bomb was dropped. Everybody was killed, completely gone, wiped off, right? And then people who were a little bit further away would be less affected, and then beyond that, less affected, like that, right? So it had an effect over a difference. So it had an effect over the geography. So that was one thing, right? Then it also had effect over time. And what I mean by having an effect over time is that even decades after the World War was over, people still used to have, defective births and things like that. And those were attributed to these generations being exposed to nuclear radiation. So, which was continuing still in those areas. So these weapons, the modern day nuclear weapons, can only be released and they cannot be retracted, right? They cannot be retracted. If they are gone, they are gone. We only know how to get them started. We don't know how to stop them. And on the contrast with these astras, with the brahmastra kind of things, right? So not only do we have a mantra to invoke the weapon, we can also tell using the mantra who this weapon should chase. So these are very, very targeted things. Again, we might say we have intercontinental ballistic missiles. I can sit here and drop a bomb somewhere else. But again, it is not as finely targeted. You will drop a bomb on a city or a town, right? So again, the population of that area will be annihilated and not a single person. But in this case, Brahmas can be targeted towards one single person. So that's the power and potency of the mantra. So they are invoked by mantras, they are targeted by mantras, and they are retracted by mantras. And modern science does not know, how to do this. We only know how to invoke, but not through mantras. We invoke through nuclear reactions, reactors, and things like that. So, and an interesting thing to note over here is that also that when it comes to these brahmastra, right? If you go into the purport, Prabhupada is saying, then he's saying that the Brahmas is similar to the modern nuclear weapon manipulated by atomic energy. The atomic energy works wholly on total combustibility. So there is some fire, right? So it is a fire weapon. The Brahmas is a fire weapon. Because he said, and so the Brahmas also act. So the Brahmas will act by burning, right? So it's got a fire. And how is that fire invoked? From where does that fire come? Through some reactions that happen because of the mantras that you have put. And that fire will now come out of that arrow and it will go to the target only. And then it can be by mantras retracted so that it comes back to the person who had started the whole thing, right? So now the interesting thing is that, and then of course, Prabhupada is saying that in the purport that this is old science, not known to us now, and this was cultivated in the land of Bharatvarsha. But again, he's saying that that if you are invoking the mantras and if you are chanting the mantras and a Brahmastra appears, remember you're still acting on a material plane, because on the material plane you have both gross and you have got subtle things as well. Bhumo apo anilo vayu kham mano buddhirevacha ahankara ityame bhinna prakriti ashtala, right? Like that. So if you're chanting the hymns, that also is all material thing and not known by the modern day scientists. Is there, right? So, but although this material science is not a spiritual thing, but it still has a relationship with the spiritual thing. You will be invoking God to help you with this, to do all these things. So there's a little bit of an element of that here as well. Now, the interesting thing about this is, and again, now if you look at our modern day situation here, like all the countries have got nuclear weapons. And so they have to hide them. Where do you hide your nuclear weapons, right? Because you don't want the enemy spy countries to know where your nuclear weapons are. So you might go underground, you might go underwater, whatnot. You'll try all kinds of things to make it a secret thing there. Okay? But every now and then, Prakriti takes things into her hand, and whatever you were making as part of your nuclear weapons to defend yourself, because eating, mating, sleeping, and defending are the four things that we do all the time. So countries like to defend themselves and will pour more dollars into the defense budget than into other things that will better the life of humanity, for example, medical support, like that. So a lot of money goes into that. But anyway, every now and then, Prakriti Maya gets the better of us. For example, there was a tsunami, right? So when there's a tsunamis are, there's earthquake that happens, tsunami, the water will raise very high. And then we had, in Japan, some of the nuclear disasters started happening because from the nuclear reactors, some of the stuff leaked out. And then we also had the famous Russian Chernobyl, I don't know if I'm pronouncing it correctly, but Chernobyl nuclear disaster was again there when a lot of radioactive chemicals were thrown into the sea. And because we don't care for anybody except ourselves, so we don't care if the animals in the sea die because of this exposure to radioactive elements. But that's how we say that we are very, very advanced, but that's how much advanced we are. If you compare to these olden age things, I mean, you are number one, okay, you want to invoke that Brahmas, you want to kill somebody, okay, but it'll be a targeted killing. Nobody else around him will be killed if you want. And then you can also retract it so that it doesn't have a continued effect going on all over there, right? So these nuclear weapons here that we have, they need a place to be stored. But for the Brahmas kind of thing, there's nothing to be stored. You will just store the harmless looking arrow. It's not yet, made potent unless you chant the mantra. So it's very, very important to have the faith in the mantra, because this is a very different kind of a weapon that is coming out from there. I mean, like we all know Indra. Indra has got one weapon. Does anybody remember what is that weapon called? Indra uses that a lot. Vajra, right? So Indra's Vajra, do you know from what it is made? Daditi's bones. Very good, right? So from where it is made? It is made from some gross material, right? Bones are gross, you can see them. So it's made from the bones of the Dadichi, so it's a gross. So Indra's Vraja, that Vrajastra that Indra has, is in a different category, like that, right? But this Brahmastra is there. It is yes, it is gross, but it's not gross again, because it draws its strength from some mantras that are chanted like that, right? So it is kind of like a subtle weapon. It is not a gross weapon. So we can say that ever since the Industrial Revolution came, we have become very advanced, and we have evolved, and evolution and things like that. We can all talk like, but the thing is that matter, no doubt, has evolved. If you look at say how you cooked and the utensils that you had say 50 years ago, and you look at the pots and pans nowadays, I mean, they have definitely evolved. If you look at a car from the olden days, and look at a car now, it has definitely evolved a lot, right? So matter definitely has evolved, but our consciousness has not evolved proportionately, right? And actually our consciousness has gone down. Like if you take the example of our pleasures, right? So give me some examples of pleasures that can be sought in this material world. Material pleasure.
Movies.
You go to movies, yeah.
Eat nice food.
Say that again, please.
Eat nice food.
Okay.
Hear good things.
You eat good things?
Hear good things.
You hear good things, okay, like music. Okay.
To have nice house.
Okay, to have a nice house, right?
Clothes,
and shoes, very good, right? So what has happened is that our pleasure has also, kind of gone down in the standards, that we now take more pleasure in the gross, like shoes, like cars, like food, and things like that. Earlier, people had simple living and high thinking. They would take pleasure in more subtle things like music, drama, dance, and so on and so forth, right? So even our pleasure here has become grasped. What to talk about weapons like that. So where this when this Brahmas was brought by Ashwatthama, and then of course Krishna will tell him in subsequent verses that Arjuna, you know how to counteract that. Arjuna just didn't know from where is this light coming, so he didn't know that it's actually a Brahmas that is being aimed towards him. He's asking Krishna, from where is this bright effulgence coming? And Krishna is telling him that it's coming from, it is that son of Drona, and he has, out of his fear of death, He has just released this arrow and he doesn't know. He doesn't know how to retract it. And how does Krishna know all that? Because Krishna is Rishikesh. He's the controller of our senses. And our six senses are mind. So he knows what are the things that are going on inside our mind. So he knows what's going on inside the mind of Arjuna. He knows what is going on inside the mind of Ashwatthama. So he knows all that, right? So, so he then will ask Arjuna in the subsequent verses to use his own powers, his own mantras to counteract this, right? Counteract this weapon. He'll do that. So then where this weapon will fall, where this Brahmas will fall, there's a place in Kurukshetra. If you go there, they will tell you that this is a place where he had released the Brahmas, this is where it fell. And they'll show you a small ditch. And of course, 5,000 years ago, not maintaining it to the best, it might look like a small ditch, but it was not a small ditch. It was a bigger size like that because it's a Brahmas that is happening. That was released at that particular point in time over there. So the key point over here to note is that that these are weapons which are invoked by mantras. So when you are invoking these mantras, then you need to have faith in the mantra. You need to have faith. Without faith, it doesn't happen. Like if you go to homeopathic medicine, the doctor will first say, do you have faith in homeopathic medicine? If you don't have faith, the medicine will not have effect, right? Like that. So faith is required, that if I chant this mantra, I will get this. That faith is very strong. Shraddha sabde, Shraddha is faith, Shraddha sabde Vishwas kale, Sudhiran is joy, right? So Shraddha on the extreme means that if I focus my attention on Krishna, then and do everything for Krishna, dedicate my life for Krishna, then everything else will get taken care of. Shraddha means that, right? But then there are different levels of Shraddha. One can have faith in the mantras to invoke Brahmastra and things like that. And then when you are, when you go and do deity worship, so there's this Achman cup where you fill the water, right? So you go to the tap and you fill the water. Now, from where is the tap water coming? From the sea. What is the sea water full of? From sewage, right? So they somehow purify all that and then send it to your home to drink. So when we start picking up the water from Ashman come from the tap, obviously it's not at that high standard of cleanliness as we would want for deity worship. But the thing is that I cannot use anything else material to purify that water, because if I pick up any powder or any chemical or any liquids to go and purify the water that I'm getting in my tap, I do not know how pure these purifying agents themselves are. I don't know what cotton has gone into the cleansing powder and so on and so forth. So there's no way to perfectly clean a material object, right? For example, if your table is dirty, so you might bring a tablecloth, or you might bring a cloth and a washcloth or a napkin cloth, and you might just wipe the table. But then the question may be raised that, you wipe the table and you think it's clean, but was your cloth clean? And then you'll turn around and say, oh, but I washed it with water. And then I'll ask the question, was the water clean, right? So this is endless arguments that can happen on the grass level. But when it comes to the mantras, if you pronounce the mantras correctly, then these mantras will act. So when we take this water for Achman, depending on the Shraddha, depending on the faith that we have on the mantra, we will evoke the rivers. Gange cha, Yamune cha, Godavari, Saraswati, right? Like that, We will Narmada, Sindhu, Kaveri, Jalesmin, Sammadhin, Kuru. So we call out to these sacred rivers and we tell them that please come and reside in my Achman cup. So if your faith is very strong, then these rivers will come. And then you'll be using the water from these sacred rivers in your duty circle. Right? So that faith has got to be there. Right? Another important faith is that through the mantras, material can become spiritual. Material can become spiritual through the power and with the aid of mantras. Can you give me an example of how a material becomes spiritual with the aid of mantras? Any example you have seen? Think like, okay, so explain that to me.
It's a material, but when we offer to Krishna,
Yeah. So where was the mantra? Where is the mantra? So the question is, give an example of how a material becomes spiritual through the mantras.
Yeah, when we say the prayer and offer to Krishna.
So by you saying the prayers and saying Krishna eat it, it becomes prasadam?
Yeah.
Anybody has differing views on this?
Also, sometimes when we are engaging the hearing senses and the speaking senses of Krishna's name.
We'll come to that. We are on the prasadam right now. So my question was that how does your bhoga get converted into prasadam?
When we ask Krishna to accept prasadam and we have faith that he is accepted.
When you have the faith that he is. So prasadam becomes, a bhoga becomes prasadam only when Krishna accepts it.
Yeah.
Right? You going and saying, Krishna, take this, doesn't make it into prasad, right? Krishna has to take it. And then your faith, the stronger your faith is there in the process, more likelihood that Krishna will take it, right? Okay, give me some more examples of how through chanting of mantras, the gross, the material becomes spiritual. And now, Medha, is your turn to share your thought.
Well, I'm not sure exactly what the question is asking because I thought it was about engaging our material senses into spiritual causes.
So let me rephrase, let me restate my question. My question is, give an example of how through mantras, a material thing gets converted into a transcendental thing, into a spiritual thing.
Like when we do the Mahamantra jap, then we are cleansing our mind and it is becoming more Krishna conscious. So it is also kind of changing from the gross, like thinking about the gross to thinking about the transcendental.
You are right, and I would just tweak it a little bit by saying from material to transcendental, and not from gross to transcendental. You see the difference like that, right? Yeah. So from material it becomes transcendental, and that's correct. And I'm looking for one more example to wrap it up.
When we do like different kind of sacrifice, like yagyas, we use completely all material things, like even the fire is material, but when we pronounce the mantras, it becomes spiritual.
Okay, good. What else?
Deity is also like, deity is like material. We made that like marble, brass, and all that. But when we chant the mantras, then it became like Panchavigraha.
Right. I was waiting for that answer because deity is so close to you all, right? There's a deity there in your home. There's a deity in the temple. There's deity everywhere. And so there is a proper method by which you bring a stone thing or brass thing, and then there's pran pratishtha, there's prayers, there's hymns, there's mantras. And that's when after that, then, based on your faith on your hands, then Krishna will decide and reside in the deity, and then the deity becomes spiritualized and it becomes spiritual like that, right? So it's all in the power of the mantras, right? For example, when you go about cleansing things, also you say Om Apavitram Pavitro Va Sarvavastha Gatopi Va Yasmaret Pundrikaksham Sabhaya Abhyanta Suchi. So if you think about Pundrik Aksh is one who has lotus eye. So if you think about the lotus eye, then your inside and your outside both get purified like that. So these are higher cleansing processes, and if you're pronouncing them with faith and properly, then they will have their own effects there. So going back to the purport again, where Prabhupada is talking about the Brahmas, then about subtle and material, gross and subtle like that. And now Prabhupada is saying that the chanter of hymns knew how to apply the weapon as well as how to retract it. And this is the perfect knowledge. So perfect knowledge of Brahmas is that you should know how to bring it and then how to also send it off. But he did not have perfect knowledge. But why did he apply it? Because he was afraid of his imminent death. And then he says that he's a son of a Brahmana. And so now he has done gross negligence of duty, and he was to be punished by the Lord himself, right? Which is Krishna himself, like that. So, um, by the way, to close off on the previous topic, so what is the deity called when in Sanskrit, when you make a steel statue or a stone statue and then you chant some mantras, or the priest will chant some mantras, and you do the pratishtha and install it. And after that, what is that? Archa Vigraha, exactly, right? So keep that in mind. And why I brought this term was because Prabhupada, in one of his lectures, it is so hilarious. He says that, he is Archa Vigraha, and that is that he's the form, Vigraha, he's the form through which you will go and do your worship to the Lord, right? Archana, you will offer your worship to him like that. And then he says that this is not gala graha. Gala means throat. It is not a big ring that has been put around the throat that, oh, my spiritual master made this temple and has put this deity over here, and now he's gone, and now I have to take care of this, right? Like that. And this kind of a thing actually happens when you start using the temple as the means of your own livelihood, right? So temples are not the means of the livelihood, and that is what is a defect. And they will deteriorate, whether it's a temple, whether it's a church, when you start bringing in that kind of a commerce thing for your own livelihood, right? Not if you're trying to generate funds, etc., to go and do more deity worship, or to enhance a wing in the temple, or to get better clothes for the deities or better food for the deities, that's a different thing, because there the center is deity. But for your own livelihood, if you're saying I'm going to generate funds from there, like that, then you made it into a business like that. So we have to keep that thing in mind there. So towards the end of the purport, Prabhupada is saying that he needs to be punished. He has committed some crime, and he's to be punished. So what were the crime that he did so far in chapter 7? What has he done? He has killed the sons of Draupadi. So one count, yeah. What else has he done? What is the other crime he has done? He has released a weapon that he cannot retract. How? This is such gross negligence. You have released this, and so after it kills Arjuna, where is this going to go? Right? So this is bad for everybody around, and then it's bad for the weapon also, because what will the personality of weapon do? We have no time to come back and rest again, like that, right? So why did he do it? Because it was a last resort. He did it as a last resort. He did not know what to do. Arjun is upon him. He's going to kill me. So sometimes what happens is, a last resort, we try to use whatever we think is our strongest thing. And our strongest power from our body comes out of it. And I remember my father used to tell us stories, because he was brought up in the hills of Himalayas. And there are, there are tigers who roam in the forest, and some of them turn man-eaters. So there was, in his time, there used to be a English person by the name of Jim Corbett, and he was a hunter, and he used to be on the prowl looking for man-eaters, and he would kill them and save the villagers. So villagers were very much in awe and respect of him, like that. So it happened that, one day a lady, those days the ladies would go to the forest to cut grass for their cows back home. And then they would also collect some sticks to cook their food, like that. So they would go to the forest. And so she had a small baby, so she took the baby also. And then she was cutting grass, and the baby was lying on the ground next to her. And then suddenly she sees that man-eater tiger is coming near, and the tiger is about to pounce because he wants to eat the little baby that is there. So this mother just stood up, very quickly she stood up, and he was, as the tiger was pouncing, so his first 2 feet were up in the air. So she stands up and grabs his feet, the 2 legs of the tiger, with her hands. And then she had so much of power in her hand, the mother holds, and then she shouts and shouts and shouts, And the tiger doesn't know what to do because never come across a grip like that in his life. And then this Jim Corbett, the hunter who was nearby, he comes and then he shoots at the tiger, and then all's well, right? So what I wanted to tell you was that whenever we are in a dangerous situation, in the end, when we have done everything possible, right, then we will use something which might even be very futile towards us. For example, in this case, I mean, catching hold of a lion's thing is the most futile thing to do. But what to do? It's a mother's love. So she did that. Right? So here in our case also, Ashwatthama is at its wit's end. He has done all these heinous crimes, not thinking through, and then now Arjuna is after him. So what can he do? So he will just go and um, use whatever last thing, whatever last bit of energy he can garner, he will garner it. And that was the Brahmas. So, oh, I know the hymns. Let me release it. He's not even thinking about who's going to retract it. He's not even thinking about that. Just release it. So that's his crime. And then Prabhupada says that Krishna is going to punish him. Now we have to keep this in mind that Krishna's punishment is not like our punishment. His punishment still has a good end result always, right? So when we go and give a punishment to a person, and the proper way of doing that is nowadays, right? Suppose somebody kills someone, a husband, a wife kills the husband, takes out a gun and shoots him, right? So then there is an investigation and they ask like, what was happening? And her defense comes and says, oh, this one here, her husband, well, he was an adulterous man. He was always debauchee. And so she caught him red-handed in the fit of the moment, in the heat of the moment. She just took his gun and shot him. So please, she should be forgiven because she had temporary insanity. And so she killed him, right? On the other hand, and so she might not be killed. She might not be sentenced to death. She might just go for life imprisonment like that. So that's the kind of punishment she'll get, right? On the other hand, if the same situation is there and then they do an investigation and they say, oh, well, you know what? Actually, this wife wanted to marry somebody else. So she planned it. She and her lover planned it for many days. And when they had the opportunity, they put some poison and they killed him like that, right? Or took his gun and killed him like that, so whatever. Now this becomes a cold-blooded murder. You have been scheming and planning about it. So you will be punished accordingly. Most likely you'll go to the electrical chair like that, right? So, but when we come to the Shastras don't recommend this kind of a way, right? And there's a very interesting story that when Dhritarashtra was the king of Hastinapur, and both the Pandavas and Kauravas, they had just grown up. And so there was a need for a Yuvaraj, right? Heir to the throne. And Dhritarashtra, of course, we know he wanted the throne. He wanted his son Duryodhan to be the next king, right? But Dhritarashtra was just a mere representative of Pandava, his brother, right? Because Pandava had to abandon the throne due to some other crime that he had committed unknowingly. And so now the question came that we have to make the decision that who is suitable for the next king. So those days also, if the son of a king was not found to be suitable, then they would look at others as well. And this completely changed the dynasty. And in some cases, if there were, like in this particular case, there's a little bit of an ambiguity, right? Because Dhritarashtra is actually sitting on the throne. But the throne really originally belongs to Pandu, who is dead. But his children have now grown up. So there's a question that how do we meet justice in this case? So it was decided that let's go and ask them this question. So it was Vidura, they called Vidura, and they said, Vidura, okay, test both of them, Duryodhan from the Kaurava sides and Yudhishthir from the Pandava side. So bring them and test which one is going to be a better king and a more suitable heir to the throne. So they brought in 4 people into the court who had committed murder. Right? And so Duryodhan was asked, and he said that, what is the justice that you'll mete out to him as a king? And Duryodhan said, okay, what have they done? Well, sir, each one of them has committed a murder. He said, fine, they have punishment for murder was death sentence. In my kingdom, if you murder somebody, you have to be killed. So that's it, they all will be killed. and therefore all of them should be hanged till they die. Then Vidur asked Yudhishthir, that can you do justice in this case? And then Yudhishthir said, okay, give me a little bit of background about these 4 people. Who are they? So Yudhishthir said, so then Vidura said that one is a Brahmana, one is a Kshatriya, one is a Vaishya, and one is a Shudra. So then Yudhishthir says, okay, to the Shudra, he should be given 4 years of jail, in the prison. Why? Because he's a Shudra. He has no knowledge. Shudra people are in mode of ignorance. They have no education, no nothing. He committed murder, 4 years. Vaishya, he said, is little bit more knowledgeable. So he should get twice as what the Shudra got, so 8 years. Then Kshatriya, to the Kshatriya, he said he should get twice of the Vaishya, 16 years in prison. Why? Because his job is to protect people and not kill them like that, murder them. So killing is one thing, killing in war is one thing, and murdering is something else. And then for the Brahmana, he said that Brahmana is the most knowledgeable person. He's the most knowledgeable person. He knows the ins and outs of Shastras. And even after knowing the ins and outs of the Shastras, he has done such a severe thing as killing somebody. So he deserved to be killed. He should get the Mrityudanda, right? But he says that you cannot give Mrityudanda to a Brahmana. You cannot kill a Brahmana. So then he said that in this situation, in the case of Brahmana, I will have to refer to the Rajguru, right? The advisors to the king, Rajgurus, and I'll take their help in order to come to a decision. So you see how different the approaches was of Duryodhan. Duryodhan says same punishment, same crime, ignorance of law is no excuse, right? If you're a Shudra and didn't know the law, that's fine, you will get, right? But see how Yudhishthir is doing this analysis, is thinking it through, and then he's giving the punishment. And we will face that. We will face this situation in the coming verses, and the story will get more and more interesting. But for today, I'm going to stop here and open up for any questions, comments, or reflections that you have. Anything that you heard from here that is stuck into your mind?
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much for the next class.
Hare Krishna, Divyangi. I'm so happy to see you. How are things in New York?
Fine, yeah. We got a little bit sick, but
okay.
Your classes keep us going. So I had a question regarding this, power of mantras, right? And especially this, it's kind of technical question, but you can answer. When we take Achaman, right, from Achaman Kalp, if we are supposed to pronounce these mantras, and we are supposed to actually take it, actually like drink it, or in some circumstances we don't have to drink it. For example, like right now, right? You don't know where the different bacteria are. Like, what is the actual, is it water what we sip, or it's mantras what we just believe in? We have faith, and we can escape the sipping of the water, actually.
Well, if a person has got faith in the mantra, right? If he has got faith in the mantra and proper faith, right? Proper faith in the mantra, so there's no thermometer that and put in the chanter's mouth to figure out how much of faith is there, right? So mantras are potent, and if you have got, so let me just retag back a little bit. So mantras are of 2 types, right? Mantras that are used for karam kandi activities, right? Which is, I want to chant a mantra to get a son. I want to chant a mantra to get an enemy of Indra, right? So when you're doing those kind of mantras, which is karam kandi, there's a result that's going to come out of the mantra, and it is entirely for your own benefit. Krishna is not involved in that at all. Then that mantra has to be pronounced very properly, and you need to have the complete faith in that, right? So that's one thing. And the second thing is that when you're using your mantras for spiritual practices, right? For example, which is the mantra that you all chant as part of your spiritual practice?
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna mantra, right? You chant the Maha Mantra, right? So when it comes to the Maha Mantra, it is not like, hey, you are from You're not from a Sanskrit speaking place, so you didn't pronounce the mantra properly, and you are from Bengal, and you are chanting it wrong, and the vibration is wrong, and the rhythm is wrong, and the frequency is wrong, and the pronunciation is wrong, and so on and so forth, right? And but because you're doing it for a transcendental cause, what Krishna is going to look at is your intention, right? So if a person is sitting down, and because he comes from a country where certain letters are just not there, for example, if R is not there in their alphabet, they will not be able to say Rama. They will say something else, Lama or something like that. Hale Lama, Hale Lama. They might say something like that, right? So Krishna but looks at that and knows that he's actually calling out to me because he's the Bhavgrahi Nardan. As Rishikesh is sitting in your heart, and he knows what's going on, right? Having said that, when Prabhupada is saying that chant properly, then it seems to be like a controversy there. First, we are saying that if it's transcendental, if you're doing it for the service of Krishna, it doesn't matter that if you didn't pronounce a complete Sanskrit, and you are from a different country and you pronounce it differently, right? Then why are you saying chant it properly, right? So what can happen is that suppose you are from a country which doesn't use the word R, right? And R is substituted by L. So they will say Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Lama Lama, Hare Hare, which is fine, right? But now when you are chanting Hare Krishna, instead of saying Hare Krishna, you now chant something else instead of Krishna, because your mind is somewhere else, because you're speeding very fast and things like that. Then that is not chanting it properly. So you see what I mean? That whatever language that you're chanting in, it has to be proper. You have to chant it. The Hare Krishna, a Bengal person from Bengal will say that, right? Because A becomes O for them. So they'll say Hare Krishna, but that's fine. If you're saying Hare, then continue to say Hare throughout your chanting session like that. Okay. So then now coming to your question that, when you're using the Achman and you're saying, it depends on exactly on your faith, right? And since our faith, we are in sadhana bhakti, right? Our faith is not 100% strong. So it could happen that your Siksha Guru might tell you that, or he might just in general tell anybody and everybody in the temple that don't sip this. Why? Because the faith is not there. Right? And in these kinds, because we ourselves don't know how deep our faith is, so it's better to be safe than sorry. So that's why they're saying that don't drink it like that.
Hare Krishna Mataji, sorry to interrupt you. I just want to understand what is the question Divyangi Mataji asked. So like
Divyangi
so I can understand more better.
Yes, Divyangi Mataji is asking the question about Achman, right? So when we do Achman, there's water in the cup there, right?
Yeah.
And so normally what people do is that they leave the water in the cup for a week like that. Ideally, you should wash your Achman cup every day and fill it with fresh water. Then what the question that Divyangi is asking might not be that relevant, but still might have the relevancy. Because of the way the virus is going around, we don't even know if it's in the tap water or not, right? So her question is that after I do the Achman, at the end of the Achman, when you say Om Apavitram Pavitrova, Sarvavasta Gatopiva, Yasmarit Pundi Kaksha Sabahaya Abhiyanta Suchi, you're saying everything has been purified. So if the water has been purified, can I drink it? Or will I get bacteria? That's what her question is, right? So I'm saying that if the person is chanting it with complete sincerity and pure chanting of the mantras he's doing, then the bacteria will go away. But we don't know how pure we are. And that's why the authorities, as a precautionary measure, and they want you to preserve your body, will tell you that it's okay during these emergency days not to drink the water. Just bring it, to do the gesture, bring it close to your mouth and just, don't drink it like that.
Thank you.
Yeah. Because dire situations cause for dire, solutions.
Mataji, can you elaborate what is the Achman that you are referring to?
Achman is a way of, when you offer things to the Lord, then things are dirty. Things will get dirty because our hands can never be 100% pure, right? Like I was saying, you might say that I washed my hands with soap. Now, what if somebody had added bacteria to your soap bottle? Or what if it caught some bacteria from the air, right? Or what if somebody with dirty hands touched the the tap, right? Open the tap with dirty hands, and now you wash your hands, but then you use your hands to close that dirty tap. So your hands are never 100% clean. So what we do before we offer things to the deity is that we do this process of achman, where we go and purify our externals and our internals, as well as the objects that we're using in the worship. For example, the bell, the asana on which you are standing, the plate on which you have got the arti paraphernalia, and so on and so forth, right? So that in that process, you chant certain mantras. So that is known as the achman process, and we use water in that, water for purification. Water is used for purification. In fact, in the beginning of this chapter 7th itself, we have read that after Vyasdeva, after Narad Muni goes back, then what does Vyasdeva do? Because that's a question that the sages are asking. Like, after he went and told his whole story, what did Vyasdeva do? So the first thing he says is that he touched the water for purification. So you have to touch the water there, with some suitable mantra, so that will purify yourself. Yeah, because there's no other way that you can come to purification through the grass. Like that. Any other comments, any other questions? Smriti Mataji likes the class. Thank you so much, Mataji. And if there are no other questions, then can we call it a day here today?
I have one question.
Okay.
Regarding Brahmastra.
Okay.
So Ashwatthama released that Brahmastra, and then Arjuna retracted. So it's
Arjuna counteracted that, if I remember correctly, and he will not counteract that with his own Brahmastra.
Counteracted, yeah. So anyone can do that. Like anyone, in such instances, previously those Brahmastra, and those are very powerful. So all the rishis and all that, they retract that, like Arjuna did, or like.
Yeah, after all, he learned it.
Who release it? Only that person can retract.
No, but this is almost like, when sometimes you see people, there are magicians there, they've got some mystic powers. There are levels of the powers that you get that you don't have, and a higher person can always override the lower person, right? And these mantras are not available on internet for people to use. They were given to you only when your teacher found you to be suitable. So in this case, Dronacharya had given, to Arjun both the knowledge, both to release it as well as to retract it. Okay. Okay, so if there are no more questions and reflections.
Mataji, thank you so much for the nectarian Krishna Katha. I like the whole Krishna Katha, Mataji, as always. But I like the very point which you mentioned, like these days, matter is getting evolved, but our state of consciousness, it is getting, lower and lower. So we have to evolve our consciousness. Yeah. And that is the aim of Krishna consciousness, right, Mataji? So I really like that point very much. Very well said. Thank you so much.
Yeah. And you know what? I'm so sorry, Charu Mataji. I was not looking at my screen, and I didn't know that you were in the waiting room waiting for the class. So I'm extremely sorry. I just came there and I just now saw it there when I went to close the class. So I don't know when you joined, but yeah, sorry about that. Yeah, so yes, that's a point that I also liked a lot, when I was listening to various lectures to prepare for this class, that we have become more grass and and maybe we have become more materialistic and on a grass plane. Yeah. And as you can see that these pleasures that we see will also evolve, like, from the grass, like saying that, I watch any movie and any type of movie. Two people then say, I want to watch only art movie. And then they evolve and they say, no, I only watch Ram Katha and Ram Leela and things like that. And then they, sit down, they have book clubs, and what kind of a book are you reading? Oh, I only read Shastras, like that. So it evolves, and gets better and better as you go along. Yeah.
Yes, Mataji. Thank you, Shraddha Mataji. I really enjoyed it.
Thank you, Sonal Mataji. It's a joy to have you here. Yeah. If there is any delay that happens in the coronavirus situation being resolved, you can blame it on me, as my ardent desire to have Sonal Mataji in the class every time.
No, thank you, Shraddha
And that's
Mataji.
only because, and because of that only she can come to this 3 o'clock
Yeah,
class.
yeah. I think I should be good till August.
Till August? Oh, very
Yeah.
good. This is good news. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good, 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 good. Okay. So then we'll call it a day here today. Thank you so much for participating and making the session lively for me as well to teach. Vanchukalpatrubhyascha kripasindhubhyev cha patitanam pavnebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha gopremanande hari hari bo. Thank you. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna. Have a wonderful rest of the day. And we won't have, for those who join the Bhagavad Gita class in the mornings, we won't have the class in the morning, but we're going to have Japa International, Japa session, Make Japa Great Again session starting at 7 o'clock on ISKCON Silicon Valley website. And Vaishya Prabhu will be there to the 2 sessions. Okay. Have a wonderful rest of the day. Dandavat Pranam.